Hey everyone, what's the crack? Lawrence here with the brand new P500 pedals from Simagic. We've had the P2000, we've had the P1000. Now these promise to be the entry level that you have been looking for. Let's do this. Okay, first things first, in true fashion, I've got the 3 pedals. I always insist on my pedal sets being 3 pedal reviews because I use the clutch so much. That is just me. I'm just that type of driver. I like to have a clutch. Even when I am driving a GT car, I do like having clutch paddles, but I don't always have clutch paddles at my disposal. So having that clutch is important to me. So you will see that I also have a little power supply, and I have 3 of the brand new little PHP vibration motors as well. And that's actually one thing that I want to bring up is these Simagic names like PHP and PHYS or whatever they are. Like, they're just very, very complicated. I find them quite difficult to follow. I don't know if you guys are all the same, but when you're on the website, it's quite intuitive. You see photos of them and stuff, but the names for the hydraulic cylinders, for the reactor motors, for all these things, they just seem to have quite complex names to me. I'm sure they make sense to somebody, but it's a little bit much to keep track of. Let's get this box open. This is a 2 pedal set. Now what I find interesting straight away here is that this looks to have its own little section, kind of. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Logitech pedals. See the way there's like a groove in the middle here? We'll see it better when we take them out, but straight away, that's what jumped to my mind was the Logitech setup. So when I saw this, I haven't seen any videos on this, so all I know is what I've been told about it. In fact, I believe we're under embargo, so this video will be launching while I'm over at the Sim Racing Expo over in Germany. So let's see. Okay, so I see a base plate here at the top. Okay, it's a little bit, I'm not sure if I'm unpacking this correctly now. Some stickers fell out. This is light. That's good. That's a good start. We've got some stickers here. Typical Simagic stickers. They're quite, I don't know, they're very recognizable, very niche. I'm not sure how many. I just don't know where I would put those. I like the brand, like the Simagic ones. Keep racing. I've never been gone on the keep racing slogan. I think it's good that they have a slogan, but I think that most people will just want the brand, and I think the brand needs to be strongest. The Formula Drift, I'm sure the drifters amongst us like those stickers. Got another huge. This is almost like a door card sticker for, you know, the side of a car. Official equipment of Formula Drift. Like, that is a big, you know, it's a big thing, especially if you're into drifting, which I am. And we've got a P500 quick guide here. Again, they've gone for this one single page. Missed the piece there. Single page, shows all the installation instructions. I quite like that. I like that they've just gone for a pretty simple approach. And we've got the back of it here as well. So it shows how you can do all the adjustments and that. I like that it's all in one place. They're not sending you to an online PDF, which I also like. Let's grab this out and let's take this last bit of foam out. So here we go. This is the base plate. Yeah, this just reminds me of the Logitech pedals, but it's surprisingly light. I'm not sure. It's so light that I'm doubting whether it's all. Okay, the base is plastic. Okay, that's where they've saved a lot of weight. But that's really nice, guys. It's got some grips on here for people who are playing on carpet or on hardwood floors. It does have some mounting points, and they're nice and close together mounting points. We saw on the Moza that the mounting points were very, very far apart. Now this is very much, I think this is aimed very much at a desk setup. But look at this, they've got this really clever control unit in here as well, where you can plug in the haptics and you can plug in all your different, so you've got brake load cell, and you've got the the Hall effect sensor for the brake and clutch and throttle. I like that they've built all that in here. It's a little bit of a kind of a soft material in here, almost like you can Velcro stuff to it. We'll see how that works in a while. And we see that we've got some lateral adjustability, it seems. Okay, and there's some holes in here as well. So I'm guessing that this part is going to come off. We're going to mount our pedals, and then we're going to put this heel plate back on. But that, I like that. That is well thought out. So I like that so far. Let's have a look at the pedals. USB cable here. Again, these Simagic branded bags. I just really like it. I just really appreciate that they go to the effort with those bags. Got loads of little, okay, we've got, this looks complicated. These are adjustments. This is like an adjustment pack. Lots of springs and stuff. Got a little kind of fancy screwdriver, some T-slot nuts. So I like that they're including T-slot nuts as well. They're catering for everybody, because somebody who's driving at a desk doesn't necessarily need the T-slot nuts, but it's cool that they include them. I think that just gives a little bit of a premium feel. It allows people to get set up with these things straight away without having to go to a hardware store or whatever to get the extra bits that they need. So this, I'm not sure which pedal it is, but it's fairly light. There is some adjustment, it seems, in the pedal face itself. So we've got adjustment on the pedal face, but also in the angle of the pedal face maybe. We don't have adjustments for the throw or the angle of the pedal itself. So that's fairly static, but we don't expect that at this price range. Let's see what this pedal is. This then is, yeah, that's the brake. Okay, so, and as we see with a lot of manufacturers, the P1000 was the first to do it really. We've got two little connectors here. One of them is for load cell and the other is for whatever the other sensor is, which is usually just a little hall sensor. Brake, not a lot of force on it, not a lot of progression. You're usually not able to do this with a brake, but for a desk brake setup, that's what this is. That's what we're going to treat it as well. We're not expecting this to compete with the top brakes out there. So let's get rid of this. We don't need the foam here. Let's get our base plate back. So we've got holes on the back here, which allow us to do pretty evenly spaced adjustments. So you don't have, if you want it between two of the holes, you're out of luck. So you've got very set spacings that you can move the pedals. But what is cool is that you can move the pedal faces themselves, which is not a feature that you often see on pedals at this level. So what that means and why that's significant, imagine you, for some reason, you want the brake pedal slightly further away, but not quite that far away. So you want it between here. This is too close, that's too far away. Well, you can move this over, and it seems like the distance between these holes on the pedal faces is about half the size of the distance between these holes behind. So you can get that little bit of extra customizability, which, especially for things like heel toe or whatever way you drive, they're little important things. So I like that they've thought of that, and not a lot of other brands allow for that. Obviously, these need to go underneath the pedal set, so they need to get down here. So that's what these gaps are for on this side. If I just turn these around, we've got little gaps in here in the pedals, so when the clutch goes in here, the cables will just go in through there. And when we're moving, you can see at the front, there's just the slightest bit of a gap in the front of the pedal here. That's where the cables will go without pinching. So looks good. I think it's quite well thought out. The mounting holes I'm really impressed with. Let's grab this clutch here. I think I know exactly what to expect from this box. Bit of foam. We do have some adjustments. So we've got some adjustment springs for that clutch. Small bit of tooling. And we've got some spare bolts because not everybody will be getting the clutch. I do think though, like, this might be a generalization, you guys can keep me honest, but I think that most people that go for an entry-level pedal set like this, they do a lot of truck simulation, drifting and all that. So a clutch, I can see most people going for the clutch. So I do hope to see some packages that that involve the clutch as well. So let's just get this out of the way here and get the clutch in place so we can have a rough idea of what this looks like. One thing that also strikes me is the angle of the pedal faces. So usually if we've got pedals that are aimed at desk setups, the pedal angle is more like this than like this. This kind of kinks back, and then we've got these very 90-degree pedals here. So that is definitely going to be interesting. On a rig, you won't really notice that, because on a rig you usually have a little bit of adjustability and you're sitting a lot more flush with the pedals, so you're kind of pushing forward on the pedals rather than pushing down on the pedals. So at a desk, if these are suitable for a desk setup, I would question how comfortable that is. We do have, looks like a tiny bit of adjustability here, but I don't know how that adjustability would work. If anything, that adjustability is going to make the pedals angle that. So I'm looking at this hole here. I might just see if there are other holes under here, because they might just be hiding other adjustment holes that will make this more suitable to a desk setup. I don't know. I'm going to have a quick check of that. So as suspected, I'm glad that the hunch paid off to be true. So this is the way they come, but you can see as you angle and keep the top hole in place, you've got that much adjustment, so you can do the top and the bottom hole. You've got that much adjustment, and you even have that much adjustment. So there's no more adjustment than that, but you can get the pedals all the way to this angle, which makes them absolutely perfect for a desk setup. Now, interestingly, they've gone for the standard 90-degree configuration. On a pedal set like this, you never get this adjustability, guys. So this is well thought out, well researched by Simagic. I'm quite happy to see that they've done this. So I'm going to leave them at the angle that I want for my rig setup, which is a lot more like this. In fact, I'm actually going to give them a little bit less angle than they have. So I'm going to just go for the first level of adjustment and see how that goes on my rig. So now that we have the P500s assembled, we can get the whole lineup all together, because there are quite a few things that I feel like I need to remark on. This is not really a kind of a side-by-side comparison, but there are some things that jumped out at me. Firstly, the little haptic reactors on the back, the little, these kind of rotate, they're rotational, whereas these are kind of a much more forceful piston that moves back and forward. So this is just a traditional, like any of your DIY kits, but the brackets do allow for these as well. So you can add on these to this and you don't need a separate controller. It's all controlled by this little controller down here, which is super nice, and vice versa. If you want to put these on your P1000s or P500s, you can do that. And guys, what a pedal lineup. Like honestly, This is insane. Probably the most customizable at the moment is the P1000. There are so many accessories, lights, hydraulic, dampers, all this stuff. There's so much of that for the P1000. The P1000, my gut is saying it's the most versatile. The price difference of these might be enough to sway. I don't know how good these are yet. My favorite of the bunch of the P1000 and the P2000 are still the P2000s. That throttle is exceptional. I still think that the throttle dampener on that is better than the throttle on the P1000. It's super quick. So when you hit that throttle, it's very quick to come back. The P1000 is just a little bit lazy. Both the P1000 and P2000, the hydraulic cylinder still uses a load cell, so it's not hydraulic pressure that it's measuring on either of these, even though they are hydraulic. This one has the hydraulic mod on it now. So I quite liked the standard brake, but I liked it with the springs. I don't like those little puck kind of elastomer things. I'm not a fan of them. I find it's almost like they're deforming the whole time. I just don't like the feel of them. So the springs are the ones to go for me. The springs on the P2000 as well. And in here we've got kind of longer springs. So they're similar, but they're a lot longer. So they're single solid longer springs. We've got shorter ones in the P1000 and P2000s. So visually, they actually look quite different. All three of them look very, very different. Now you do have different pedal faces that you can get for the different models, but all three pedal faces look pretty good. I liked the ones on the P1000 and the P2000, so we'll see how these go. I've put the angle a little bit. I said earlier in the video I was going to just adjust the angle of the pedal faces on the P500s, and I did. I adjusted it just to the first adjustment level, and having the three of them in a row there, they're actually exactly the same as the rest of it. So I don't know why Simagic do the perfectly 90-degree from the factory with the P500. I would definitely change that if I were them, because this is a lot more in line with the rest of the range. And I think there is some adjustment in the P1000 pedal faces. So I don't think that I adjusted those over time. You can see a large height difference though, which is interesting. So this looks like a super high, but this distance is actually quite similar because the base plate is just slightly lower. I don't have the base plate mods for this, and the base plate here is quite high. So you're going to find that this is going to be touching the middle of your foot a lot more than these would be. You'd be driving a lot more with your toes. You'd be driving with the middle of your foot a lot more with these. So they're just some interesting comparisons. Of course, the P2000s were the first, and they have an external control box. It's lovely and integrated in the P1000 and the P500. It's as nice. It's really well done. We've got these little Simagic logos on the little haptics. Now, I've not done any cable tidying here. You do get some clips that you can tidy these up. It's you kind of have to decide, will they face this way, will they face that way? I've put two of them facing left and one of them facing right. It'll just look better on my shots, but honestly, once they're on your rig, they're hidden and out of sight, so it doesn't really matter which way that logo is facing. We've got Simagic logos on the pedal faces here as well, whereas here we've got this big Keep Racing. This all lights up because this is an add-on. The original one is kind of a more red. We don't see any of these red accents that we see in the higher level of the range. We don't see any of those in here. We see these pretty kind of matte grayish pedal arms. Word of warning about these are pretty soft. Compared to this, they're a lot softer. When you're adjusting these bolts, beware of cross-threading, because I did a little bit of cross-threading on my travels. They're just soft. They're just a little bit buttery. Other than that, I have nothing that I can remark on right now. That's just all the visuals. You can see they're a lot smaller than the rest of them. Let's get them on the rig and let's do the proper comparison there. So here we are in the rig. Firstly, they mount up pretty nicely. I had to move the whole base plate back a little bit because the pedals are quite close compared to where my previous pedals were. The pedals were quite close to me. Now they're at a decent distance. This is my first time pressing the pedals. The brake is notably heavier. The throttle and the clutch are very light. You can see as well what I meant earlier about the height of the pedal. See, even the kind of the ball of my foot here is above the pedal. So now it's nice if you're like a slidey, you know, if you like sliding your feet like this for driving, which, you know, is not bad. It's quite comfortable. So especially if you're doing, you know, if you're doing casual drifting, casual driving, I've no doubt that you can be fast with these even as they are. It doesn't feel really like a real race car would, or like a performance car. This is a very entry level set of pedals though. And I haven't actually mentioned the price yet. The price of these is less than $300. Now, that excludes the clutch. To the best of my knowledge, the clutch is not much more. I think with the clutch, it works out about $350. Then you've got the haptics on the back. They're not that bad either. So you can get a pretty beefy, you know, on paper anyway, got good encoders, good hardware, load cell, everything for less than €500, including all the haptics. I would leave off the clutch haptics. Not saying that there's anything wrong with this particular haptic system or whatever, just with any pedal set that I've ever used, having them on the clutch just doesn't add anything for me. But having them on the throttle and on the brake does. When I hit the brake, there's no notable progression of the brake, but it is, so how can I compare it? It's somewhat similar to the Logitech G Pro pedals. It's somewhat similar to those. Nowhere near as good as the CSL Elite V2s from Fanatec. It's similar to the Moza SRP lights with the performance kit. It's better than the SRP lights with the performance kit. It's similar to the CRP2s with the softer elastomers in them. The throttle feels okay, more than usable. Throttle and clutch probably very comparable to the CSL Elite V2s. They're actually more customizable on the P500s, so that's super welcome. Pedal faces feel great. Let's see if we're doing a little bit of heel toe. There's a slight angle to the pedals, so at the edge of the pedals. So heel toe is not too bad, but it's the same as the CRPs. If you're full on the brakes and you want to do a bit of heel toe, you're hitting the side of that pedal, the side of the throttle pedal. So heel toe only really, yeah, it's not ideal here. You could change the pedal angle slightly and see how you get on with that. Like what I would do in that case is I would make the brake maybe a little bit more upright. Then you've got a little bit of extra space, a little bit of extra angle to play with. But I can't see heel toe being great with these, to be honest. Whereas I don't remember that being an issue with the CSL Elite V2s. Simply probably because of the stiffness. Now, when I put stiffer elastomers and stuff in this brake pedal, it may mean that they have less travel and it may actually facilitate heel toe a little bit better. When I did my Moza CRP2 video recently, a lot of you spoke about the adjustment, and I did make a mistake in that video. I did make assumptions about the product. The elastomer kit that's with the CRP2 does completely transform the feel. So if I'm not happy with the feel of these today, I am going to do a little bit of adjustment in this video just to see, you know, where we are on the roadmap of how close can I get it to where I want it to be. So I had to do a quick firmware upgrade, and then everything was detected. Okay, we've got that. I had this with the P1000s as well. The software is just slower. That is not a video sync issue. The software is just slower than what I'm pressing, which I don't really like. That's been bugging me with the P1000s. I would have hoped that it would be fixed by now. I've reviewed other pedals in the meantime. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit annoying. We've got pedal curves here, so you can set for it to have, you know, 80% of its potential input for the first 30% of travel. If that's what you like to do, I like to keep them linear like this. What we do have, which is interesting, we see it with the P1000s, these pedals now, Moza CRP2s, they're all doing it. A lot of companies have started doing both load cell and angle. So the difference is, just for the brake, If we go just by angle, that's 100%. That's 100% of the angle. If we go by load cell and we go the same distance, we can see we're only at like 40%. Then if we keep pushing, even though it feels like the pedal's not moving, you've got that extra bit of braking force. So I prefer a load cell, much prefer a load cell. This is doing a pretty good combination reading. I'll have to spend some time with it. I pressed that quite hard. It seems to be going just to the end. I press it as light as I can. Yeah, it's consistently around the 40%. So the reading is good. What I was looking for there, and it was an issue that I had with the P1000s, was load cell drop off. This does not seem to be dropping off. It is hypersensitive. That's why you see that number jumping up and down a little bit. And I am not as good at modulating, especially when there's very little force coming back at me. I'm not as good at keeping it exactly at the 40%. But nothing to worry about there. The clutch, there's no bite point simulation. It is just very basic. But in sim racing, at the moment, you don't actually need much from a clutch. So that's pretty okay. What is interesting is the feedback. So I'm going to use the Simagic software for the purposes of this. You can use SimHub. So I've done that with previous. I've done it with P2000s, with the P1000s, with the haptic feedback motors. These are a different type of motor, same kind of tech. I'm not sure what to do for the clutch. I'm just going to throw a lot of effects on for the clutch and hope for the best. Not going to do RPM feedback, not going to do speed. I just don't think there's any point in getting feedback from a pedal unless it actually means something. For the brake, definitely want to do ABS and I want to do wheel lock. I don't want to do anything else. Let's leave the wheel slip off. For the throttle, I want to do traction control. I want to do wheel slip and I want to do gear shift as well. So I'll do gear shift on all three. So that should give me a fairly good, fairly nice feedback. This is just from experience that I'm doing these. I do recommend generally this type of setup for clutch. Ignore what I'm doing for the clutch here. I'm just giving it everything for now and seeing if it's too much. If it's too much, I'll just dial it back. We don't seem to have an ability to turn up or down. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's great. Okay. There's not much happening there. Bump. There we go. That's giving a little bit of a... Oh, can we do it across the board? Oh, don't make me do it for absolutely every single one of them. Oh, no. Come on. Surely there has to be a... Is every single one... Oh, that's set to... Oh, I just did that, did I? Every one of them is set to 12%. God. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't want to be too quick to judge here. Turn down there. Yeah, I definitely want like 20 hertz for the gear shift. And does that mean I have to do it on all of them now? 20 hertz and 90%. That is... I could be wrong here, but this has annoyed me in the past with, you know, rev lights and stuff. The Simagic software just always seems like quite a... I know there's, you know, you can change quite a lot here, but this is a lot of setup. I'd like to just have one slider, set everything to a certain setup and just send it and see what happens. Yeah, well, let's leave it at this for now, and we'll see how we get on with it. So, in the car, all right, straight away I'm feeling vibration with a little bit of wheel spin, and it's actually really good. Very similar, even with my minimal settings now, and I like that I'm feeling it on the clutch, I have to admit. It's very similar to a lot of DIY kits that I've tried in the past. Right, so the ultimate test... Okay, difficult enough to modulate the throttle there. One of the reasons I use this car is because it is an absolute killer of a car. When I come out of the when I just do the upshift, I'm feeling continued, almost like the wheel lock is coming on. So there's just continued vibration. I've got the gear shift, but it seems to stay on for quite a long time. I don't know if that's not the way it normally is for gear shift. Maybe it's the way that Simagic does it. But it rumbles for quite a long time. You know what? I'm able to drive this car straight away. These are like, the default configuration is very much like how you'd run them if you were on a desk setup. Yeah, a little bit too much vibration just after I upshift. But that's something that can easily, I'm not going to fix that right now. Getting more used to the throttle. This is, it's showing a lot of promise. So even though the brake is very, very light, I'm able to take advantage of that load cell. So I'm not braking too hard, but I'm able to lose my speed. So it's like if you don't like putting too much pressure on brakes, I'm finding, and this is just me personally, everybody is different, but I'm finding so far that I'm already able to find quite a lot of pace, even though this brake feels nothing like what I want a brake to feel like. So think about that for a minute. Might be pure luck, might be just me having a good day. It might be, but you know, I use a lot of pedals, and sometimes, most of the time, when I don't like the feel of a pedal, I can't use it properly. I don't like the feel of this pedal, but it's telling me exactly what I need to know. That's a tricky corner. Okay, that's a little bit too much throttle on the way out, but I'm able to brake for these corners, guys. Now, it might just be the fact that because it's on load cell, I can't get 100% brake pressure with just the travel. So to get that 100%, I need to press them just that little bit extra hard. But I'm bringing it to the point of the front wheels locking up. I would happily, if I sat into a rig for the first time and I had to do a stint in like a 2-hour event, I can't see these pedals causing me any trouble, to be honest. And generally, a great kind of a gauge of pedals, especially ones that have you know, a decent amount of adjustability, different elastomers and stuff with them. A great judge is if you can drive with it in its default form and you just want to tweak it, make it that little bit heavier, or change where the, you know, where the pedal starts getting heavier or whatever. You can generally do that if there's any adjustment available. Where I get red flags, and again we have to go back to the Moza CRP2, is that pedal felt wildly unpredictable and just not very nice at all. That was a very late braking there. It felt wildly unpredictable and I just did not enjoy it. I made the assumption that I wasn't going to get along with those pedals at all. I did find an elastomer combination, well actually a spring combination that really works well for me, so I am quite happy with the CRP2s, but this excites me because this means there's a lot of rumbling going on down there. The rumbling sound has changed. I don't know, has a bolt come loose, but it sounds a lot louder now. So maybe I just haven't tightened something up properly. But yeah, I'm way less worried about these than I was. This is actually, it's similar to the, it's somewhat similar to what I felt with the G Pro pedals. Except the G Pro pedals, I was maybe expecting more because the wheelbase was so expensive and stuff. The G Pro pedals are a similar price to these. So, from a clutch and throttle point of view and brake, it's a similar enough experience so far. But I would say in their default form, they're better than the G Pros. Maybe they haven't tried to make them that squashy. That... I don't know. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but that is hammering like a good thing. There's plenty of vibration, so that's good. Yeah, the clutch is just going completely nuts. And generally, guys, if they're good for circuit racing like this, they're fine for drifting and all that kind of stuff. So I don't feel the need in this video to test them for drifting. I think they're super comfortable. So the fact that you can adjust that pedal face is absolutely excellent. I love that. They're much better than I expected, to be honest. Do bear in mind though, do just like this, these are not world beaters. These are good entry-level load cell pedals. The brake, there are better brakes out there, but this is very easy to use. So it's more than good enough for drifting and rally. If you're doing circuit racing, I still recommend the CSL Elite V2 pedals. The brake on that is just really, really good. Now, again, maybe it's very early doors because I have not adjusted this yet. So maybe, you know, remind me if you're on the fence between these and the CSL Elite V2s. I think I'm going to have to stiffen up this brake, guys. I'm going to have to stiffen up the brake because I think the brake is the one thing that's going to make or break it. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to stiffen up this brake and we're going to see if it improves the performance. So what I've done is I've quickly changed out the red spring that's in it for a black spring. I think the black, maybe the brown, I'm not sure which one is the heaviest. That feels a lot heavier. There's still not a huge amount of progression on it, but at least I can feel that point at which the rest is load cell and not really travel. So the first, it's almost like they've, I don't know, have they accidentally or on purpose reached a kind of a two-stage system here. But the first stage will get you to like 70 or 80%, and then the last bit is your load cell. But that feels pretty good. Both feet there. You'll notice as well, I'm not wearing racing shoes, which I usually do for pedals. As these are like desk setup, I kind of a little bit of a compromise. I'm wearing my 3D wrap Sim socks. So I've got a couple of Sim socks from different manufacturers, and I do like to use them a lot of the time when I need to use a little bit of force, but I don't necessarily want to be wearing shoes because I feel like I wouldn't really feel much with these if I was wearing shoes. So let's go here. So let's see if the braking has improved or worsened. I haven't adjusted the vibration, so if you get a lot of vibration noise, all right, just warming up the tires. This is a very, very unforgiving car. Yeah, that noise every time I shift up is really annoying. Right, it seems to be bringing me to a far higher percentage a lot quicker. So let's see if I can start using that intuitively here. So even though physically it's not much, it's not exactly a heavy brake, you are reaching that lockup point a lot quicker. So when you press kind of quickly, you will, like if I'm going down straight here, so it doesn't actually even feel like I've traveled the same amount of distance as I did before with the red spring. So there's a little bit of getting used to it, but it is, right now it's consistently locking up at the same point. Let's see if I can throw it into some corners here and do a bit of a lap in anger. that gear shift noise is really wrecking my head. 20 hertz, I'd say, is just... Oh, vibration duration. I only want it to be like very, very quick on the gear shift. That's what's happening. So I only want it for like 100 milliseconds. So the slip and the ABS, they're all... The slip is very quick. So the vibration is happening before the actual slip is happening, or at the same time, which is nice. Okay, I feel like I have less faith in where exactly the brake is. Maybe I just need to look at... So it's not exactly intuitive, but maybe if I just go back here. Ah, the brake is always a little bit on. I just need to calibrate here. That's what's going wrong. So that's the throttle, brake, clutch. Now, okay, now it should drive a lot better. Explains why I was getting more braking than I was expecting, because it was already starting at a far higher... So let's test it now. Oh yeah, that's way more intuitive now. So I was a little confused as to what was happening, but the brake being stuck at... Yeah, look at, like... You can see the difference in the driving already. I've got a little bit of faith in the brake. It's so funny how much of a difference some settings make. Like, I'm able to throw that in. The throttle modulation, it's fine. Nothing spectacular. Oh, that's very late. That's very late. That was my fault. I could definitely drive with this. The brake does feel better. It still doesn't have that nice progression though. So I'd love to see two smaller and stronger springs. It's got one longer spring. I did put one of those little dampers in there. There's a little damper that they provide with it. I'm not sure exactly what that does. But this feels pretty okay. It feels pretty good. I think that, especially with a bit of time spent with this, there's no reason why you'd be any slower with these pedals than even a €1,000 set of pedals. Yeah, that's my initial gut reaction on it anyway. So, alright, let's jump into the summary. Okay, so the Simagic P500 pedals, they are less than €300 for the two pedal set. Around the 350, I believe, for the three pedal set. Then by the time you've got the haptics on there, you're up over $400. That's good value, guys. They're not world beaters, but they are entry-level pedals. Let's not forget that. I would be surprised if I can't match my fastest lap with these pedals as I could with like a €1,000 set of pedals. I'd be very, very surprised. Now, I might have occasional, consistency issues, but even that, in the short period of time, like, so I got very confused when the brake was stuck. So when you put in a spring and the spring has more resistance on it, there's more pressure on the load cell. So the load cell was actually measuring like 18% minimum. So I had to recalibrate those. So that messed with my head because I couldn't see my pedal inputs and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't feel great after I put in the stronger spring. They are springs and not those elastomer pucks. So that's kind of what I felt. I didn't know that. I thought that they would be using the elastomers, or at least have the option of the elastomers, but they don't. They're just springs, and it's one single spring. So you don't really get that huge amount of progression. You get that one spring, which is fairly linear. Now, at the hard stop, which isn't too far away, the throw on the pedals isn't that crazy. It's long. It's as you'd expect from like the Logitech G923 pedals or G Pro pedals or whatever. It's not hugely long though. So I don't really feel the need right now to make that throw shorter, especially because you can adjust those pedal face angles. So that's all really, really good. I had a lot of faith in these pedals, being honest. The throttle and the clutch feel a similar weight. I didn't really put the throttle through its paces in this video, but it seems fine. It seems okay. I will be using that over the coming weeks because, of course, this is not a review. This is my first impressions. Even though a lot of what I say here constitutes review-like material, this is not a review. So if any of you say that this review was not in-depth enough, or I've only used them for 20 minutes or whatever, and I can't have an opinion of them, you are exactly right. I'm just doing this first impressions because this is what most people will be faced with. If you think they're too light, throw in that black spring. Feels a lot better. I would nearly go as far as to say I would bet that that's almost as good as they can feel. There are other springs that you can use for the throttle and the clutch. Honestly, I don't think I'll be changing the throttle and the clutch. Even though they're quite light, they're very predictable and they're very usable. I think they've done a good job. The number one priority for any pedal set is that when you press your foot down, you can predict what the input is, the amount of input. It needs to be nice and consistent, needs to be very memorable. So when you press it and your brakes lock up, the next time you get to that exact point and you lock up at that exact amount of pressure, you know that you are in control of the car. What happens with some pedal sets is you think you're going back to the exact same point, but it's not locking up yet or whatever. In our sims are dependable enough and consistent enough that you should be able to lock up at the exact same point every time. Now that will change over time as our sims get more clever, as tires heat up and all that kind of stuff. But for now, the test bed, one of the reasons I use this car and this track is because you can really teach yourself to be very, very consistent. And it allows me to compare all the different pedal sets as well. I have to say the base is very, very light, lighter than I expected. The inlay is kind of a metal. The outer part is a composite plastic. I think it's very clever what they've done there, guys. This would be a great pedal set for a motion system. Very, very light. Those haptics weigh half nothing as well. The haptics are good. They're very like a DIY system, except you don't have the faff and loads of cables and controller boxes. Everything is nicely integrated into the base. You just need a power supply and a USB cable in the back of this base, and it's tidy. I mean, I've done no cable tidying whatsoever, and it already looks tidy. Ignore the cables behind my rig because I'm still in the process of setting up this rig, so I haven't done any cable tidying or hiding stuff in the floor of the rig yet. But on the pedals alone, the cable tidying, the cables are nice and tidy. The pedal faces feel really nice. The little lip for your heel is nice. They are kind of push pedals rather than rotate pedals. If I was to drive the way I drive a lot of pedal sets, I'm actually pressing with a different part of my foot. You can kind of see that when I press the brake here, it's below the ball of my feet. So braking like this wouldn't be very intuitive. So you can see me kind of pushing my foot forward like this, which is not, you know, a bad experience. So you're really kind of the push comes from where it would in real life. So it's I'm quite happy. The angle is I love that you can adjust the pedal face angles. That's a huge thing. There are a lot of premium features on an entry level set of pedals here. Is the brake ever going to be as good as the CSL Elite V2s? I doubt it. I just think the elastomer stack of the CSL Elite V2s, where they've got spring and multiple elastomers, you can really get that progression and that beautiful top end braking feel. I don't think you're ever going to get that with this unless somebody mods something or unless they come out with a very, very clever upgrade kit for this. But it does feel good. You can be fast with it, so there's not much to worry about. If it fits your budget, this is an excellent option. I will be using it for the next couple of weeks, so if anything goes wrong, disconnects, software issues, those rumble motors annoy me, which I don't think they will because they're great. You'll know. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Irish and UK time. I'm Lawrence. These are the Simagic P500 pedals. Thanks again to simware.eu for their facilitation of all of these products getting to me as well. They're great supporters of what we do. Thank you very much. I'm Lawrence. I'll chat to you later.